How's it going, everyone? Professor Travis Tooke here. I'm here with one of my favorite people, Maggie Smith. How are you?
I'm alive. I'm tired.
So you're, I feel like every time I ask you how you're doing, it includes the statement, I'm tired. Yes. And this was before you had your first child, which congratulations.
Thank you.
But you're, so awesome jiu-jitsu purple belt, school teacher, new mother. Why are you tired?
I'm always tired.
Even before? You must be extra tired now.
I wasn't sleeping anyway because I was watching terrible, trashy television, 90 Day Fiancé and stuff, and now it's the baby.
Things to help you with that, like leadership spirit.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. So you're always tired, but you're always smiling when I see you. So is that completely fake?
It's a default.
Okay.
It's a default.
You're just like seething on the inside.
My students said that I have a face that when I'm feeling something, it's really easy to tell because it's reflected on my face, so it's been my goal the last couple of years that, for example, like if a student says something really dumb, I'm like, they start to kind of feel bad about themselves, so I have to kind of perpetually keep this smile on my face.
I think it does. No matter what mood the other person is in, it puts them in a better mood because they become concerned with you right away.
Yes.
Even your like Pan Am gold medal picture is one of the best pictures ever. Well, I gotta maybe cut that into. No, I won't do that to you.
I think you should.
I think I will. Good. Yeah, it's a good.
Like a big fat Samoan dad that just popped out of the audience. I'm so happy to be here. It's so bad.
Well, how did you find jiu-jitsu? Why is it such an important part of your life?
Okay. I found jiu-jitsu while I was playing rugby. I had this teammate, Natalie, that kept trying to get me to try it out. And I kept saying, no, I don't really want to go. It sounds stupid. You're rolling around in pajamas. And then she said, you're right. You wouldn't be very good at it anyway. And reverse psychology
that was smart.
Kind of worked on me, and I went to try it.
I feel like as a coach, that would be like the wrong thing to do to a kid.
Perfect. It worked so well.
You would probably suck anyway.
Yes.
And then everyone would just leave crying. But you took it the different way.
Well, I'm like, I've always been pretty good at most sports that I've tried, and then I tried jiu-jitsu, and I was horrible at it, so I was like, okay, well, now I definitely have to stick with this. I was so bad that my black belt at the time, when he was giving me my first stripe, which was about 9 months into jiu-jitsu, actually made a whole speech about how he thought I was never going to get it, and I was so terrible. It was the most terrible. Shout out to Chris Kim. Sorry, I was so bad. He was like, man, I just did not think she was going to get it. She was clumsy. Like, it went on for a couple minutes.
Man, I feel like we gotta invite this guy back when we give you your black belts, so we can both say the same thing when we do that. Well, how much did you feel that any of the athleticism or technique from rugby translated to jiu-jitsu at all?
Oh, yeah. The aggression. Like, my favorite thing about I love hitting people. So I thought, okay, this is going to translate easily to takedowns, and it didn't, because I kind of had to tell myself, like, okay, like in rugby, I would always have my head on the inside, and I'm not necessarily supposed to do that when I'm going for a takedown. So I think it was just the aggression. Like, with training partners, it's kind of hard to switch on, but in the first, like, 5 to 10 seconds of a match, like, I already have, like, my eye on the person who's across from me. I'm going to hit that person in the first 5 seconds. If they get the ball, I'm going to do this. And I kind of just had to transfer that mindset. Like, I'm going to be the first person. I'm going to collar drag this person. I'm going to pull this person in my guard. I'm going to do whatever. So I just had to have the mindset of, if I'm the first person, then I'm always going to be the best person. Kind of mindset, sort of.
So which one was harder to train for?
Jiu-jitsu.
For sure?
Jiu-jitsu is way harder. Like, rugby felt natural for me. It was just like, I'm catching a ball, I'm hitting people. I felt like I was really in my element. Jiu-jitsu is so technical. And I'm a little bigger, and I've always kind of been one of the bigger girls, so I kind of thought for a while, like, I'll just get away with being able to smash people, and I've got these little people, like, taking my back, and I learned very quickly that size, well, it can be an advantage, it's not everything. I had to become technical, because I was getting beat up by people that were, like, 50 pounds smaller than me. So I think jiu-jitsu is, to this day, the hardest thing I've ever done, because I think even every level that I get to, like, when I got to blue belt, I didn't feel like a blue belt. I got to purple belt, I still don't feel like a purple belt. Maybe when I get to brown belt, I'll finally feel like a purple belt. Like, it just gets it gets harder and harder, and I think that's what I like. I think that's why I stick with it. That's what I like.
I think that's a common concept that you mentioned, is because when you get to a certain level, your horizon sort of gets pushed back, and you understand a little better how much more there is that you need to add to your game to get to another level. So it keeps you humble no matter what. So when did you first start competing, and then what was that experience like? Because you competed before, right? Obviously, you were used to a competition atmosphere with rugby, but now it's different. It's one-on-one. So what was the change like?
It's terrifying. Like in rugby, they always say, like, you have the team on your back. You have everybody with you. So even if you're one person out there who makes a try, which is like pretty much a touchdown, if you're the person that makes the try, you've got your whole team with you. In jiu-jitsu, even though I have my team in the stands, it was like, oh God, if I mess up, everybody's watching this. Everybody sees this. It's not my whole team with me, even though, and I kind of learned that it actually is, but it takes a while to feel that way. In my first tournament, it was, I think, about 4 or 5 months into training, and it was a bet. We were all out on a night drinking, and they had posted something in Korea about the first tournament, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to sign up for that one." And my training partner, who was also
you made the decision after a few
very
drinks.
Inebriated,
super easy to make those bold decisions, right?
And then we registered for it, and it was awesome. I got like my first submission ever.
Yeah.
I didn't speak the language, so I didn't know what they were telling me when they kept smacking my hands off the inside of the
because you had the illegal grip?
Yes, the whole time. I just had tunnel vision.
You just thought they didn't like you for being the foreigner.
I was like, it's because I'm
go slap her.
Yeah, I had no idea, but it was a lot of fun. I actually, at my first tournament, I carried my rugby ball around with me because I was so uncomfortable I didn't know what to do. So every picture of me at the tournament, I'm holding this rugby ball. Like I held it before I got on the mat, I bowed on with it, and they had to like take it out of my hands.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Mike remembers, he was laughing at me. They had to take it away from me and like hide it under the table. It was... Yeah,
but it gave you that kind of comfort.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, that's cool because you found the sort of the confidence that you had with the sport you already did. Now you're bringing that over to something you haven't done before.
Yes.
I played football, not like I wasn't like one of the top players, but it's definitely a different level of competition because you can lean a little more onto your team. And I think in jiu-jitsu, you can as well, but it doesn't feel like that until you've been doing it for a while. Because there's this sort of... I remember when I first competed, I had this feeling that I was the only one that was terrified to compete, and everyone else is having a good time. And so I go out, and if I won, it was like, okay, they still love me. And if I lost, it was like, oh, God, like, what have I done?
Were you a white belt when you first competed?
Yeah.
How far into your white belt journey?
Not very far. It was sort of a different landscape back then. It was like, it wasn't organized at all. It was a bunch of people in Texas that like had been exposed to it, and they're trying to put together what they thought was a jiu-jitsu tournament, but no one knew like really even all the moves yet.
Yeah.
And they're all white belts too.
Yeah.
So it was a little different. And then by the time I got closer to blue, and had been exposed to a little higher level training, but I was still young and still not knowing sort of that. It's like that reverse perspective. Like if you see me losing a match, you're not like angry and disappointed at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you're the person that does it, you have all the emotions, against yourself.
Yes.
Which I think can only be cured by getting out and doing it again.
Yeah.
But you've done super well. You've won like the Pans, and you've done well at like the high level competition. Was that what did that feel like when like you went out, and obviously you kind of mentioned like there's some self-doubt there in the beginning.
Always. And
then you've gone out and shown that you're quite good.
I think that's the area where I thrive. Like my dad kind of used to tell us there's this zone of uncertainty, and a lot of people, he said, they're never successful in anything because they stay there.
Yeah.
And so like one of the things that my dad used to do was ask me where I'd failed in life. And so, like, what had I done that I failed in? And that was actually really helpful for me because if I wasn't failing anything, I wasn't trying anything.
Right.
And so I think for me with, like, Pan Ams, I didn't really go in with a ton of expectations. I had told my dad had passed before that, and I told my dad the year before that, he had asked me what some of my goals were. And I said, I want to win Pan Ams, I want to win Master Worlds, which I didn't. I still have a vendetta with Master Worlds, and I need to go back and do that. But it was, at that point, it kind of just felt like it was easy to make it about somebody else and not about me, and then it helped. Because if it's about me, then I'm kind of like, oh, I can do whatever. But when I was like, okay, well, this is for my dad, and I told my dad I was going to do this, it's like something I had to take off. And so that worked for me. I don't know. It was kind of, it's just a little bit surreal. I still remember after the match, I like looked up and I thought I had more matches, and you guys were all like, yeah, you won. And I'm like, wait, I'm finished. I'm done. So, yeah, it was awesome. That's probably one of the best experiences of my life because I didn't think I could do it.
Sure.
But, and this is where I say jiu-jitsu is a team sport. Everybody else around me knew that I could. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part.
How important was your dad and just your kind of confidence in trying different things?
Like, majorly important. Till this day, there's not, like, anything that I try that's new or something that I do that I don't think about my dad. Like, my dad, that's the thing I loved about him, was my dad was probably the most courageous person that I ever met, and he gave me strength to be like him. So my dad would like if somebody thought I couldn't do something, my dad was my biggest fan. My dad was like, well, that's silly, just go and show them that you can. And that was his response to everything. So I think that definitely rubbed off on me because I was really not a confident child. My brother is the super athletic one, and he's always been kind of good at everything. And I think my dad knew that I needed that kind of reinforcement. So I try to, now that he's not here to tell me that, I try to kind of be that person for other people. Because
it sounds like that's kind of his legacy to you. You said something that showed a lot of wisdom in the way that he thought, which was, what have you failed at lately?
Yeah.
And that's contradictory to what we want to experience. We want to experience winning and success. We want to experience the congratulations that everybody gives us when we do well. And when we lose, it's kind of like this feeling of like, self-pity. But the reality is, if you're strong internally, you can look at winning and losing for what it is. It's an opportunity to gauge where you're at.
Yes. And
I always felt like when I competed, if I won, it was the feeling I was after. But if I lost, it was the experience that was going to make me grow even more.
Yes.
So, how do you gauge both of those?
I agree with that 100%. I think when I win, I'm happy. But then being the type of person I am, and maybe it's because I'm a teacher, I don't know, I immediately start like critiquing, I could have done this and this and this. But when I lose, it's like a different type of motivation. I come back and I feel like laser focused. Like I know some people when they have a big loss, or like I need to take a day, like I can't do that. I want to go home and then I immediately want to train. I want to figure out what I did wrong. And I think that also comes from my dad too, because one of the things he used to say a lot to me, especially in rugby, was if it was something I could control, he was like, okay, so how did that, you didn't make this tackle or you didn't do this, how did that feel? And I was like, it felt terrible. And he's like, okay, so take that feeling, use that feeling, remember how that feels, and promise you're never going to feel that way again. Mm-hmm. And that was super motivating for me. Like, I don't want to feel terrible again. My medal, my bronze medal that I have from Master Worlds, it's the only medal that I'm hanging up in my house at all, because it's really motivating for me, because I really think I should have won that match, and I just like froze and didn't do anything. And I think about it all the time, and I'm like, I can't wait until Master Worlds comes back, because I have something to prove to myself now. So like the gold medals, they're somewhere, but that medal is like,
all the memories that stand out to me from competition are matches where I lost or I had a close match. And the wins are, you need the wins. They kind of, they gauge, your progress and your growth, but the losses are as important or more important. I tell that to students, not like you don't want to go out and try to lose to try to cheat the experience. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, well, no, you don't know if you deserve to lose. You want to try to win and sort of in a weird way earn your loss so that you know that, okay, well, that was the extent of my effort, and now I need to work on, some technical elements of my game. So you have this experience. Obviously, you had a great sort of role model and mentor who guided you and gave you this mindset. And now you're in a really strong leadership position as a school teacher. How do you do you find yourself using elements from your sports past, like with your students, and does that work out, or is it like not always work out?
I think it applies really well, actually. Like, other than just like accidentally bowing into my classroom sometimes, which does happen.
Yes,
it's super funny.
Oh, or I feel like anytime like if the floor changes, like if it goes from carpet to tile, or there's a door, I feel like I have to stop myself.
Like stopping it.
Yeah, it's such a secondary response.
I think a lot of the lessons, especially about losses or things being difficult, those kind of go with. Again, I guess it kind of goes back to my dad. One of the things that he used to say that I kind of stole and I use in my classroom is excellence is not a skill, it is an attitude. And so with my kids, our sort of like call and response is, if they're being really loud, I'll say excellence is not a skill, and they have to repeat back to me, it is an attitude. And they don't really think about it much at the first, but then they have to keep on saying it, and then they're like, okay, well, why am I repeating this? Am I being excellent right now? Yeah. No, I'm not being excellent. And they kind of have to think about it. And I think the mindset applies, like with them, especially with getting frustrated with something that's new or not knowing how to do something. Like I have ESL students who like think that they should just be able to get something right away, and language is hard. Jiu-jitsu is hard. Language is hard. It's like you have to keep trying. You have to keep practicing. So I think this idea of like repetitively drilling things applies really well to education. Like you're not going to get it at first. The more you drill it, the better you're going to get.
Right.
And that's what I love about education, I think it's probably similar for black belts. I'm sure you feel the certain way. There's this thing in education we call an aha moment, where somebody finally gets it.
Right.
That's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel that way. Like,
I talk about that too. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part. Is when you can like see the light bulb go off in their brain.
Yes.
When they finally get it, and that's so cool that you say that. The sort of like the repetition of what you give students, because in the beginning you're not going to appreciate the thing that the teacher is giving you to do, the repetitions, because you don't understand. Even with little kids, like we have kids that are 3 years old, they're not even like online yet, I think, you know what I mean? Like they're not self-aware beings, so it's just about forming positive habits.
Yes.
And then at some point, if those habits are drilled in enough and they're repeated enough, then they appreciate the significance of them.
Yep.
You know, whether it's just the hard work of doing the same drills over and over, or the tell me to me again. Excellence is not a skill.
Excellence is not a skill. It is an attitude.
It is an attitude, right? So I feel like that's something that if a kid is a little bit troubled and has a bad attitude, they don't care about that statement yet.
Yeah.
But with enough time and trust with a teacher, then one day they're like, it's going to be like that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's cool
I'm going to live like that, kind of. Yeah.
And we have another thing we have above our door is that I don't know who said it. I don't want to misquote them, but it was excellence is what we repeatedly do, or it's something along that lines.
Aristotle?
It might be something about.
I'm going to sound smart if
it's
that's
something
the
about
answer
what we
and wrong.
repeatedly do,
Yeah.
And that comes back to jiu-jitsu again too. Like all of the things that I am really terrible at are things that I have gone out of my way to avoid doing.
Right.
So I haven't gotten any better at them.
Yeah.
Like for example, half guard or butterfly or something like that. But when you finally start this, like I think in jiu-jitsu, it's super important to do things you do not like to do, because you're going to get put there in a tournament. Nobody's going to go, oh well, she's really bad at butterfly, so I'm not going to put her there. Or she's really bad at
They want to expose the
So that's important. So I think that mindset transfers really well. And also I was actually just talking with one of your coaches about this in regards to jiu-jitsu and education. I think they're actually very similar. Mm-hmm. Like I think people don't really think about that. Black belts are teachers.
Yeah.
They're educators. It's kind of the same thing. You have the behavioral management. You have those aha moments. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of model that same behavior. So I really feel like that, like, studying jiu-jitsu and then being a teacher kind of go hand in hand, at least for me anyway.
Well, that's one reason, like I tell all the instructors here, we have a rule that we don't call this facility a gym, it's a school.
Yeah.
Because a gym is where you go to work out. A school is a place of learning.
Yes.
And it should be that way, because a gym is, we're going to go and we're going to sweat by moving around. It's like, no, we're going to learn. And we hear so much about, the jiu-jitsu lifestyle and what it does, how transformative it can be for a person, how it changes the way that they approach other problems. Yeah. And I think until you do jiu-jitsu for long enough, that sounds exaggerated. Yep. Until you start doing it, like, oh no, this is problem solving. This is a way to view problems with a solution-based mentality. Yep. And I think that, as an instructor, that's what I would hope that all students would get, is not just, here's the answer to your problem, but here's how you can think about the problem so that you can find more than one solution to it. And I think as a teacher, like here the students are coming because many times they've chosen martial arts path. Yeah. Whereas they have to go to school. So you have to motivate them, and they're not sort of pre-required to be motivated. So like what do you search for in a student to try to find something that will make their eyebrows lift up and come online and be engaged?
I think the key, for me anyway, and I know not all teachers agree, the key is relationships. Like relationships before rigor, like relationships over everything. I get to know my students very, very quickly within the first couple of days. Like within the first couple of days, I know what type of experience this person has had with English in the past. Okay, this person hated their English teacher because they did this. This person has dyslexia, so English is hard for them. Or this person has a learning disability or whatever it is, and then making it personal. And that's not always easy to do. It takes a lot of time. I feel like I just know my students so well. I take so much time to get to know them that we have this kind of like trust and this sort of relationship, and I learn probably as much from them as they learn from me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it's discussion based. It's giving them time to talk as well, not just always talking at them, seeing how they feel about particular things. I know in the past I've had teachers that I hated going in the classroom because they would just tell us education is it's just this one thing, and this is their thoughts on it, and there was no room for any debate or no room for any conflict. And in our classroom, that's not the case. It's the loudest classroom probably at the whole school. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw out an idea. All right, this is happening. For example, we were just doing a debate on Puerto Rico has decided to fine the parents of obese children.
Really?
Yeah. How do you feel about it? And then the kids are like, they know that they can't argue with each other, so they have to go and they have to write down, okay, here are my 3 points, here's my counter argument if somebody says this, and then they kind of like come together and we have this sort of collective kind of like mutual respect.
Sort of teaching them how to think.
Yeah, without saying think this.
Sure.
Yeah,
right.
And so I guess, just relationships and then the comfort to feel like safe enough to be able to express themselves.
Well, it's that idea like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You form a relationship with the person so that there's trust there.
Yeah.
And there's no difference in jiu-jitsu. You can teach the best way to do a technique. If you're not connected with that student, they are not going to feel safe and trusting of what you give them. There's a little bit of, I would say, benefit of the doubt in the beginning. Okay, you're the teacher, you have the title, so I'm going to at least give you a minimal amount of credit. But that's not going to keep anyone for the long run or inspire them to want to, kind of rise up. So I think that's awesome that you said that, because I feel the same way. And I've been trying to learn better ways to do that and instill that to the instructors here. It's like, no, you have to connect with the students one-on-one and find out what is it that they need besides the martial arts moves. Yeah. So it's kind of, I guess you would say that with teaching. What do they need besides the lesson plan?
Yeah. Well, to your credit, I will say you're very good at persuading people to do things that they don't think that they can do. So I've watched you on multiple occasions now tell somebody, so you're going to sign up for this tournament, right? And they're like, no, I'm absolutely not. And then you're like, oh, well, really? You do this really well and this really well and this really well. There's a difference. There's black belts and then there's black belts. And I think that's the difference. I don't
know. Mine might just be like using guilt.
No, I don't think it is. I think to your credit, I think you know your students so well that you know their strengths and you get them to focus on their strengths and not their weaknesses. Because we've got a lot of Jiu-jitsu draws insecure people, I think, for that reason. I'm definitely one of those people. I think there's a lot of people that are like not very confident.
I really think a lot of it just has to do, from a teacher's perspective, is loving and believing in what you're doing. I tell people I think I'm extremely lucky that I get to do this, and it's not. It's a lot of work to be an instructor and to have a business, everything. Yeah. But there's also kind of the luck factor of finding something that is so motivational, that you're so driven to do, that the work part of it is actually easier because of that. Yeah. And so that's really what it's about. And from your point of view, like, let me ask you this question: how different do you think? I don't know if that's the right word, but how much do you think jiu-jitsu has molded like your sort of your character and the way you interact with people?
Massively, I think. Well, I will say one of the other reasons that I also started jiu-jitsu is that I'd been assaulted in the past as well, and that's something I didn't really mention kind of like earlier on, and I was extremely like not confident, particularly working with men, working kind of just the idea of being able to defend myself. So I think it's changed my perception of myself and my relationships with people 100%. Like, I feel very comfortable defending myself. Like, that's not to say that I can beat up everybody on the mat, but I think I have a fighting chance and I have a pretty good opportunity. And I think jiu-jitsu has really made me kind of trust people more. Yeah. But because I trust myself more. And I think that was really, that's super powerful for me. It's like giving yourself some power back that you lost. And that's really important. So I think it's been huge for me. I've been training for 6 years and I can't really imagine not training. And I think that's why being pregnant and having to stop like when I did was really difficult, because that was like something I was doing every day. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now we're just here. Now we have to watch everybody. And I think it just massively impacted my relationships with myself and with other people.
I think that's that really resonates with me, because we have so many kids that train here whose parents have the goal. They'll mention something like self-defense or anti-bullying, but at the core of that statement is regaining the confidence that they once had, or giving them the confidence that they haven't yet developed, which I don't think is really any different for adults. It's just with kids, it's a more obvious in-your-face problem, things like bullying. But you mentioned your story, and as adults, you don't just turn a particular age and you're more confident with who you are. And now it's like I'm a grown up. Life is fine.
If anything, there's more things to be insecure about.
There's more things, and they're more consequential problems.
Yes.
You know, it's like whereas a kid, it's like, oh, this kid's picking on me. It's like, well, when you're older, you'll actually look at that as not as big of a deal. It just feels that heavy. When you're older, these things are a little more challenging, and so finding that confidence, adults I think are less honest about expressing that part of it because we don't want to say, well, here's where I'm lacking confidence, you know, in my character. We want to just say, no, I'm a grown up. I handle my responsibilities. But I mean, no one's 100% there. You know, even like me, like I train all the time and, you know, black belt, but I still have my insecurities that I sort of, you know, have doubts that I'm working on. Like we all have that. And so I think you really touched on something important, not just for kids, but I mean, for all adults, it's sort of confronting that and then taking action to regain that part of yourself.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's really great. So what's it like being a mama?
It is other than winning Pan Ams, it's probably
so it's Pan Ams and then the birth of your child.
I think like birth a child.
I think you've got your priorities changed. I told y'all, it's most important.
It's been very humbling. Being a parent is kind of something that I thought I would be very good at. I'm not naturally good at it. Like Mike is like a great dad. Like the baby was born and all
Mike
of a sudden...
Mike Torres, Jiu-jitsu black belt father, like, just in case you don't know.
The baby was born and then like Mike knew exactly what to do and he was smiling and he was perfect with him. And I think for me it's the kind of lack of confidence. I think some of it was around the circumstances of the birth. It was just a very
it was during this whole pandemic thing. Everything was coming.
It was a little traumatizing. Like he had the cord wrapped around his neck. I lost a ton of blood. So it already started as a very
Sure.
I felt like I was not on super even ground, and then I was like, oh God, now I have to know how to change this diaper or how to do this. But it's been super rewarding. I'm learning every day. It's definitely a steep learning curve, but I love it. It's cool seeing him become a little human being. Like, oh, now you're grabbing things. Now you know how to do this. Now you're smiling. Now you're talking at 2 a.m. and everyone's trying to sleep. So it's the single most probably rewarding experience of my life.
Yeah.
I think, I'm kind of growing into myself more. A lot of things that I probably would have been upset about or things I would have made a big deal about before, I'm kind of learning aren't really that big of a deal in comparison. So
I've heard that. I don't have kids of my own, but every friend of mine who's a parent, they all say your perspective of what matters and is important changes immediately. Like I think it was my buddy Robbie was saying when they love their dogs were like their kids, and they still were like that. But they said as soon as his daughter was born, they now became pets and children. It wasn't like children. It was like, okay, now we love you. Now you're the pets. The perspective's different.
That's 100% accurate. It's like you have this little fragile thing, and all of a sudden, everything that you have has to go into that, and protecting it. And even with our dog Lulu, who we do still refer to as our child, our baby was sleeping. We had him laying kind of by the window on this couch. She didn't see him, and she's a huge dog, and she jumped up on the couch, and I just see Mike's eyes go red. He just loses it and grabs the dog up. So your relationships with your pets change. There's definitely all right, this is my pet, this is my baby. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I think your family is lucky to have you, and we're lucky to have you on the map. So keep doing what you're doing, and awesome talking with you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Oh, wait! Wash the hands. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, don't forget to share this video with somebody else. Thank you.